All right, welcome to the Coaches Show. This week we're looking forward to week 7, and that's going to see the Wildcats take on the Butler Bears over in Bates County. This show is sponsored by State Farm Insurance, Susie Broderson, Shelter Insurance, Leanne Beeman, Community National Bank and Trust, J&D Pharmacy, Pitts Homes, and Tracy Spry and Associates. I'm Adam Howe, your host. Along with us again this week is Coach Ryan Boyer of the Warsaw Wildcats. Coach, welcome again.
Thank you.
So before we get to that big Ozark Highlands Conference matchup with Butler, we're going to take back and look at a recap of week 6 that saw the Wildcats defeat the El Dorado Springs Bulldogs at homecoming. That was a 40-6 win. Wildcats moved to 5-1 and 2-0 in the conference. El Dorado Springs dropped to 1-5 and then 1-2 in the OHC. So after handing Hogan Prep a loss at home in week 5, and what I thought was probably the Wildcats' most impressive game of the year, and that's just personal, but they turned around and take care of El Dorado Springs at home last Friday night, and putting together 2 impressive performances like that back to back, that's tough. And Warsaw gave up a touchdown to the Bulldogs after a long sustained drive on their first possession. And then the offense kind of sputtered their first time out. But then the defense came through with a pick 6. We'll get to who did that later. Then the team kind of settled in from there. And the offense produced, played with a little fire. It really came through some big plays at big times. And then the defense had several players who had some good games. And there was the interception. We had fumble recoveries. There were several tackles for losses. And we'll get to some individual performances here in a bit. But what impresses you, I guess, at this point in the season most about this team?
Yeah, it's just one, like I said, back-to-back weeks, kids did a good job of coming out and just executing the game plan that we put in place. It's so hard to fully emulate what you're going to see during the week, especially, last week seeing triple option. That was something we were really impressed with, even after that first drive. It was a long drive, ate a ton of time off the clock. When our defense came off the field, we were able to talk to them and say, okay, hey, what are you seeing in that first drive that you haven't seen during the week? And that way we can make the adjustments, we can fix some things, and communication part was great there. That's where again, when they came back out, we were to execute, and Nate Banfield on the interception there. He just did a great job with that, and that was something that we worked a ton. We knew that was kind of their favorite route combination, and cleaned some things up during the week, and to execute that. But it was kind of odd first quarter where they had that long drive, and then we went 3 and out. We only had 3 plays on offense first quarter. Didn't realize that until later, but even on the offensive side is settling down, and we had some guys on the line, filling in that hadn't had a lot of varsity playing experience, and they came out, executed, played very well all night, and so we were very pleased with that because we weren't sure how balanced we were going to be, run to pass attack, and how well we were going to be able to run the ball. But kids did a great job, and again, just one week to the next, kids just focus on here as a team and what's number one priority, which is getting the win.
And so I guess the answer that I pick up from that, as far as what impresses you most, is an important one, and it's the in-game adjustments and the ability to adjust on the fly. Yeah,
without a doubt. And our coaches do a great job with it too, and like I said, just players communicate to the coaches.
Right. So looking back at that game, like you said, the Bulldogs took the opening kickoff, and they held the ball for, seemed like forever.
Yeah.
But they actually went down, they scored first, and they got on the board early. I say early, it was the first quarter was almost done. But 5:35 left, and that was on a 3-yard touchdown run. Their 2-point conversion was no good, but they led 6-0. And then the Wildcats were stalled on their first drive, and then Nate Banfield, we were back in their red zone. I think they were inside their own red zone. But then Nate Banfield comes up with a nice pick 6 and kind of zigged and zagged and bounced off guys. And I think he must have run 35 yards to run 15 maybe. But he ends up getting in, and then the 2-point conversion there was no good, but we tied it up 6-6. And the good thing about it, the first quarter ended 6-6, but that was the only points that El Dorado saw. So then they get into the second quarter. And then there was a turnover on downs early, but then there was a lot of scoring went on late. And there was, with 4:03 left, Gage Whitaker goes in for a 1-yard touchdown run. Wildcats go up 12-6 after the 2-point conversion was unsuccessful again. And then El Dorado Springs has the ball in that next drive, and we're talking seconds later. It looks like 12 seconds later.
Yeah.
A forced fumble, Nate Banfield picks it up and gave it another run, but he got taken down that time. But then the drive culminates in another 1-yard touchdown run by Gage and at the 2:37 mark. And then to heck with the 2-point conversions, let's bring Logan Jeems on, right?
Yep.
He nails the PAT, and they have a 19-6 halftime lead. And I think Devin Bowl came up with a fumble recovery late to kind of stall things out for them.
Yeah.
So the half ends at 19-6. Then moving to the second half, obviously some adjustments made. We just got done talking about those, but at 10:33, Wildcats come up with another fumble recovery there in the third quarter. Later on, 3:08 left to go in the game, and Tayton Boyer gets on the board with a 2-yard touchdown run. Jeems nailed the PAT again. They take a 26-6 lead. And then there's a little bit of a flurry in the fourth again. So there was another fumble recovery by the Wildcats. El Dorado just never could get anything going. So the Wildcat defense played with some confidence and stuff like that, and just really kind of shut everything down for them. And that's credit to Coach Miller, I think, and I'm sure the whole staff.
Yeah.
But I look at it as Coach Miller's defense, right? But then the Wildcats score again, a 13-yard touchdown pass from Tayton to Nick Bagley on a 13-yard route, put the Wildcats up 33-6. Whitaker blocked a punt with 4:32 left to go in the game, and then scored later on a 20-yard screen pass with 1:28-29, something like that, left to go in the game. Again, Jeems comes on, and that was kind of interesting. After a penalty, he gets shoved back, and we talked about this not on air, about him being able to hit a good field goal, and instead of running the offense out there for a 2-point conversion again, we say, we're up, so let's give Logan a shot. He nails a 35-yard point after.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right.
So then the final, I guess, of 40-6. So conference win number 2 for the Wildcats over El Dorado Springs, and it was done with some modest individual performances, and we'll get to those numbers here in a minute. But you have a very selfless team, and perhaps even admirable from a fan standpoint. And how do you keep these guys happy and just so grounded and humbled?
It's team first approach. These guys, again, I would say, Friday night was probably the stingy defense, and that's what you want, where they were able to force some turnovers and give us a short field, and that allows the offense to run a few runs, run a few plays, and then go. And you love to have that. You love to see that. We always want to win the turnover battle. So that was nice there. And again, that was different guys contributing, and without getting into all the stats, there's some guys out there that
we're going to get into those.
I know, but with that, I mean, making some plays that maybe haven't made a ton of plays throughout the year, and again, just executing, and guys that maybe don't make as many, they sit there and they still did their responsibility. They just weren't on the sheet there. But again, it just goes back to executing our game plan that's in place, and just focusing on what's most important. And the guys did good, and late there, it was one where we were trying to roll some of our younger guys in, and we had some younger guys out there, and again, work on some things, and even that last score, we're trying to set up to kick a field goal, and it just so happened we get into a 3rd and 30, and then like a 3rd and 17 or something, and Gage did a good job executing that screen, but our big focus there is more so getting the center of the field, so we can get some in-game experience at an actual field goal, not just an extra point, but extra point ended up working out into more of a field goal situation.
Right, and then of course we've talked about the and that just threw me off. So anyway, we're going to get to some individual performances. I've lost my train of thought there, so we're just going to get to those individual performances. And on the ground for the Warsaw offense, team rushed 36 times for 182 yards, and that's just over a 5-yard per carry average, and had 3 touchdowns. Gage led the way on 15 rushes for 71 yards, and he had 2 touchdowns on the ground. Tayton went 13 rushes for 60 yards and had 1 touchdown. Then Nick Bagley, we always talk about Nick getting the tough yards, only 4 carries but 23 yards and almost a 6-yard average there. So So pretty effective on the ground. And then through the air, Tayton Boyer goes 5 for 6 for 76 yards, a little over 15 yards, but also 2 touchdowns. And Garrett Ferguson, on the passing, Garrett Ferguson caught 3 balls for 50 yards, and we see him come on and take over a role that he assumed. And Garrett came up with one big catch there on the sideline, came up with another big catch, and you'll know better, I guess probably remember better than me, but it might have been on 3rd down. And needed a play, and Garrett kind of worked his way back to Tayton there, and then came up with the first down for him. But anyway, 3 for 50 yards. Gage had 1 for 15 and a touchdown. Then Nick Bagley had 1 for a 13-yard touchdown. And we can go back to that and talk about those guys coming up in the passing game, and maybe even the experience that Garrett's garnered over the last few weeks, and being able to work with Tayton and see the live reps through the week, and knowing where he's at and what he's looking for and where he needs to be, and know where the chains are and stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's something we always talk about our receivers is field awareness, situational awareness, where we drop back and here's a perfect situation, you'll get it here. Well, if coverage is tight or pocket breaks down, we have scramble. Well, you have scramble rules, and not just how you're supposed to work to the quarterback or with the quarterback, but like I said, if it's third and long, know where the chains are at. And again, just good job there, for Garrett. Finding an open spot, and then taking the staying calm, in his scramble and getting. On
that 3rd down, I even gave Garrett a little toe drag swag comment after the game.
He did a good job.
So he did a good job getting both feet down. And then so the Wildcats go for 258 total yards in the game, 40-6 win over El Dorado Springs. On special teams, Logan James. 5 for 5 last week, and then, or I guess 2 weeks ago now, and then Logan comes up 4 for 4 perfect on PATs this week. So he's now 9 for 9 in his last, and just blowing his dad's numbers out of the water now. Tayton, I think, had a punt for 46 yards. So we had a 45-yard punt last week, 46-yard punt this week. So when we have to do it, getting kind of flipping the field there. So on defense, a bit of a surprise here, and we'll probably both talk with smiles here, because the guy who led the team, I don't know that he was even on a defensive chart probably before this game, but Devin Bowl, the Wildcats center, and then plays on the defensive line for the Wildcats defense, but 11 tackles. And I felt like I said his name over and over and over, and somebody said, well, that's because you were. And then he even had a fumble recovery. Nick Bagley, 8.5 tackles, and that's another impressive night in itself. Drake Merle, 4.5. Riley Taylor and Josh Harvath both had 4. And then Gage Whitaker had 3 tackles and a fumble recovery. Nate Banfield only had 2.5 tackles, but a big fumble recovery and a big interception return for touchdown. So talk about the guys that we haven't got to talk about much on the defensive side of the ball, the Devin Bowles and the Nate Banfields.
Yeah, so and those guys up front, whether it's offense or defense, they don't get a lot of recognition. So it's nice when they can get their name out there, and like I said, defensively make those stats where. And when you run it against an option team, especially triple option, they're going to be reading a lineman, a secondary player, and sometimes even to the 3rd level. And so these guys did an exceptional job on the D line, where I felt El Dorado made some adjustments, did a good job reaching our linebackers, but to that it freed up some of these guys. And again, Coach Cruchot does an excellent job with those guys. Just so many times it's guys. Hold a double team, freed up for the guys behind you, where this week was a little different, where it was...
There wasn't nothing holding Devin back.
They're going, hey, squeeze to it right now.
Devin looked like he was running to the lunch line.
It's one where, if you're that read in the option, we're all familiar with running triple option, it's better to be a force than be a read. If you sit there and let them read you, then they can make things happen, where if you're the force... Coach Milroy says, be the hammer, don't be the nail type deal and stuff. So he definitely did an excellent job. And just, again, as a defensive unit across the board, and those backers, they still made plays, but that's what we're telling them. Hey, fight through those blocks, because, again, you're freeing it up for these guys. So forcing, we were hoping to force El Dorado to have to pitch the ball if they did get past the dive option part of it. And guys did an excellent job with it, and that's where we got a lot of those fumble recoveries. And
then in that defensive secondary, Nate Banfield, we saw him come on last year when Kellner got hurt early. And he came on, and so he got some experience last year in that secondary. And then this week has the best game we've seen all year.
Yeah, and unfortunately for Nate, at the beginning of the year, he kind of tweaked his knee a little bit, so he's working back to get healthy with that. And so, kind of a late start to the season, but I feel like just each week he's getting better, he's getting more comfortable in everything we're doing. He has the experience, he has such a great attitude about it that you always love to see. Any kid has success, but especially when they can do it in that way.
Right. So then Wildcats, we always talk about breaking the season up into thirds. So the Wildcats go 3-0 in that second third of the season. That's wins over Sherwood, Hogan Prep, and now El Dorado. Wildcats are averaging 224.67 yards per game on the ground, and then 108 yards per game through the air. I got to get that .67 in there. Anyway, they've outscored opponents over that span by an average score of 41-13. So what stands out to you, and what do you notice about your team's progression in that second third of the season?
Getting better each week, and our message to them hasn't changed a whole lot, but it's always great to see how your team grows from each week, because you're going to have injuries throughout the year. That's just part of it, but we've been able to see a lot of guys step up, fill in, take on new roles, take on different roles, and see those upperclassmen kind of take them under their wing and help them out to that. And so that's been the biggest thing. And then it's not being satisfied. When we meet on Mondays and we talk about evaluating ourselves, those guys are the first to talk, hey, yeah, we did this well, or I did this well, but here's something that I need to work on individually to improve, and
holding each other accountable.
Yeah, and just understanding that, guys, hey, we're in this together, 100%, and like I always tell them, guys, hey, I'll take it, I'll take it first 100%, and then let's work it down from there. And so it's neat to see, like I said, just need to see the growth. Our seniors do a great job leading them, and then our underclassmen just again, taking that leadership and working together with them.
Right. So Wildcats win 40-6 over El Dorado Springs in week 6, and that takes care of week 6. We're going to put that one behind us. We're going to look forward to the Butler Bears in week 7 when we come back.
Hi, I'm Luke Beeman with Reese Nichols Golden Key Realty. We're located north of Warsaw on Highway 65. We have 14 real estate agents with 275 combined real estate years of experience. Give us a call at 660-438-7228. Please visit us on our website, reeseandnichols.com.
Welcome back to the Coaches Show. I'm Adam Howe. We're visiting today with Coach Ryan Boyer of the Warsaw Wildcats. This Coaches Show is sponsored by State Farm Insurance, Susie Broderson, Shelter Insurance, Leanne Beeman, Community National Bank and Trust, J&D Pharmacy, Pitts Homes, and Tracy Spry and Associates. So we covered the win last week. We move on to week number 7. That is going to see Warsaw travel to Butler. And Wildcats going to face them. Wildcats 5-1, 2-0 in the conference. They're going to take on the Bears, who are now 4-2 and 2-1 in the conference after a 50-44 road loss at Buffalo last week. And that one kind of surprised some folks.
Yeah, you just never know from one week to the next. And I would say, especially when you get into conference play, common opponents, and you see it on Saturdays, you see it on Sundays. That game just kind of turned into a shootout, and Buffalo did a good job, execute what they do, and Butler did too. Is just like I said, came down to the end there and ended up in overtime. I think there were some key turnovers early on that really hurt Butler, and that Buffalo was able to capitalize on. But and I know like I said, there's always guys that are kind of out injured from one week to the next, so that never helps your cause. But yeah, I think it did. It definitely surprised a few people. So
Buffalo and Butler sit in the Ozark Highlands Conference. They're tied up, both 4-2 overall, 2-1 in the conference. And Wildcats, of course, sitting at 5-1 and 2-0 in the conference, which makes this one a big one, because if the Wildcats can take care of the business over in Butler on Friday night, then they will hold the outright conference lead, and that means that last one against Buffalo is going to be even bigger.
Yeah, without a doubt.
So the Butler offense, looking at some film, what we see on film is a little bit of wing, a little bit of pro, maybe a little bit of spread. I'll use that lightly because it doesn't happen much. But snapping and pistol with a majority of the time, and then but do move up and take the snap from under center a little bit too. So looking at some players, individual players. Number 2 is their quarterback. I think that's a Davidson kid. He's a junior, 6'2", 175, looks to be athletic. pretty smart, does a good job controlling the field. I mean, kind of a good field general. That's what you want out of your quarterback. And 22, everybody knows him. And if you don't follow high school football in this part of the country. But anyway, his name is Brendan Patrick, senior running back. I think he might be a fifth-year senior. Seems like he's been there forever, right? But 5'9", 160, no doubt about it, best player on the team. And could be, we'll give him credit, could be the best player on the field on Friday night.
Very good.
Strong, quick, runs hard, and he can get away when you're in space. And then we look at a couple other guys, maybe don't get a ton of touches. I know there's been an injury at one spot, number 3, number 24, but both those guys kind of slippery. And then not much from wide receivers. We've seen some really, really, really minimal pass attempts in film. Maybe, I think, under 20 in the first 6 games. So it's a really low percentage. So they like to grind the ball out, but they do behind an offensive line who does a good job. They're physical, they're not huge, but they get the job done. They do have a big guy on the right side, lines up at right tackle, and he's a man among men out there, it looks like to me.
He's a big boy.
But of course, the Bears' offense goes as Brendan Patrick goes. So the Warsaw defense did a good job at containing him in last year's game. And how does a defense game plan for him, and is it easier knowing that they don't like to go to the air a lot?
It's one, obviously you got to know where he's at on the field. If they're fully healthy, those other guys do a good job of kind of taking the load off of him a little bit. But there's times where they'll run a true Wildcat and he'll just line up with a quarterback, and they feel like that gives them the best opportunity or to be successful. And so whether it's he's on offense, obviously on special teams, they put him deep, punt return, they put him deep. So to that, our kids are familiar with him, with their team. They do a good job of trying to create the numbers advantage, pulling those guys formationally, kind of getting people outnumbered if people don't recognize it, if they're in their jumbo set and things like that. And then they don't have to go to the air a lot, but when they do, they are pretty effective with it. And when you really go through and break them down, it reminds me a lot of us, where it's you run the ball, if that's going for you, then don't get away from it too much, and then you're 100% able to pass it if you need to, and if they're giving you the looks you need to, and coverage is right. And so for our kids, big thing that we just keep hammering, and they've done a good job executing, especially here of late, is just your keys, your reads, and then it's being disciplined and handling adversity. And there's going to be adversity through games every single week. Even last week with the long drive to start it, first quarter's pretty much done, and it kind of took the air out of the stadium for a minute, where you just you refocus, you bounce back, and then just again execute our game plan.
So then we've also seen on film, and the film that I watched, and again you watch much more than I do, but we've seen the ball turned over in games leading up to this one. And we've seen it come by way of interceptions. We've seen the ball on the ground. Is that something that Coach Miller and that Wildcat defense might be seeing on film that they watched this week?
Yeah, and to that, it's taking advantage of it. If ball's on the ground, we consider any ball on the ground, any ball in the air is a 50-50 ball for us. And again, going back to making sure you're where you need to be, because especially when the ball's out, you don't know how that thing's going to bounce or kick your way. And so we always we stress each week, win the turnover battle. And so sometimes especially off a snap and things like that, when they can put it on the ground for that, then 100% you got to get to it. And as I mentioned earlier, Buffalo, they did a very good job of taking advantage of those turnovers, especially early on.
Right. So then looking on the other side of the ball, looks like the Bears run a 4-3, and they do a good job of disguising where that rush comes from. I saw it coming up the middle. I saw it off of both sides. And have the Wildcats practiced reading that this week? And are there any tells that maybe you see from the Bears to lead you to believe that it's coming from one side or another?
Yeah, they do a good job of getting downhill. Sometimes they'll stem a little bit with their backers. I think their safeties, and even last year, their safeties are very impressive on how they run the alley, how they get into the mix. You got to know where those are at, because sometimes you see teams play safeties as true safeties. They stay back and they're not very involved in the run game. Where these guys do a great job, and like I said, they funnel a lot to them off the edge, and then up front just holding their gaps, being gap sound. Backers getting downhill and swarming to it. We know that they're going to be physical, they're going to be active, they are every year. I'm talking, and again, not to go back to last year, I know that talking to a lot of people, that came to that game to see, that's probably the most physical football game that they've seen for a while, and definitely for the season. And so we look forward to it, and it's one that, again, we tell our kids, you don't dwell on the past, but it's, hey, they've got you the last few times. They got us the last few times. So it's definitely one that we want to be able to put on a good performance and come away with a win.
And they're big, they're active up front. That second level looks to me like they're playing 4, maybe even 3 yards behind that front line. Is that positioning something that the Warsaw offense might be able to exploit? Yeah,
we hope to. When you see that, what you typically get out of that is a very gap sound defense. They're going to make sure that all gaps are covered, try to force you out, and again, force you out, and the safeties can run the alley and just kind of plug the middle there. And they got some guys that do a good job. That fire out low, again, demand a double team, keep guys off their backers. And so, it's always tough. Coach Morrison, he's always in there drawing up the next big play for the week. But also just trying to continue to work on what we already have in place, execute those things, and we always have those plays in your back pocket that for whatever reason maybe you haven't had a chance to show in previous weeks, and so maybe this week will be the one you get to.
So this might be where that book starts opening a little bit.
Yeah, maybe.
You never know. And that's why you pay to go to the games. When you're not there, you watch on BCE TV.
Yep.
You don't want to miss that.
Yep.
So Wildcats are 5-1 now, 2-0 in the conference. They went 2-1 in that first third, 3-0 in that second third. They're looking forward to the final third of their season. Seems hard to believe. But the Wildcats facing a big stretch here in their next 3. That's Butler. We're on the road at Skyline.
No, we're here for senior night.
Here for senior night, and then we're Buffalo. Down there.
Yep, at Buffalo.
Then we're down at Buffalo. So Wildcats have 3 big ones coming up, and that's why you played the Lafayette counties and the Butlers and stuff beforehand. And granted, Butler's a conference opponent also, but that's why you schedule those games, because you're getting ready for this final third and that push towards district. So anyway, Wildcats looking forward to taking on the Butler Bears in a big one in the OHC on Friday night. We'll be back to wrap things up after this.
Hawthorne Bank supports our community. We also support our schools, kindergarten through 12th grade. Today I'm here with my friends, Coach Burdick with the Warsaw Youth Football League, and Coach Boyer. He is the athletic director for the Warsaw schools. Coach Burdick, what do you do with the money that we use for sponsorship?
We use it to purchase gear and repair gear and to purchase new jerseys.
And Coach Boyer, we've worked together on a few things. What do we work together on?
We've worked on the sponsorship for our scoreboard. In addition to, we do our Warsaw basketball tournament and our Warsaw wrestling tournament.
And through sports, our young people will learn the basics of the sport. They also learn to keep good grades, and they also have learned to build good character. When you are a customer of Hawthorne Bank, you are also supporting your community and the high school. Come open your account today.
1, 2, 3.
Gotta love Warsaw!
We do.
Hawthorne Bank, member FDIC, and equal housing lender.
And we're back on the Coaches Show. Week number 7 coming right up. Warsaw Wildcats traveling to Butler to take on the Bears in an OHC conference. Big game on Friday night. So like we do always, we kind of look back at the last week, look forward to the next one. Last Saturday, youth football. You always have to tell me what happened in the flag.
1-2. We hosted. There was a close one. There's kind of not a close one, and then we won a close one. So lost a close one, won a close one. It's kind of all over, but it was nice to be able to host and see all those guys out there.
That's all over is a good explanation for a good description, I guess, for flag football.
Without a doubt.
So then 3rd and 4th grade, they also won. And then the 5th and 6th had a bye last week. Cross country ran at Camden, and top 25 medalists include Jackson Deckard of the Wildcats and Naomi Yoder. On Monday night, JV football beat El Dorado Springs. That score 20-8. Middle school football lost at home. They took on Butler. And Tuesday night also, varsity volleyball lost at Smith Cotton. JV volleyball, they won at Smith Cotton. They're 15-1. So then junior high volleyball, I believe they won at Russellville. So they're doing a lot of winning down there in middle school volleyball too. Wednesday night, everybody was off, as far as I know.
Yep.
Wasn't anything going on Wednesday night. So then Thursday, varsity and JV volleyball at home. That was against Buffalo. That was pink out. And then football at Butler on Friday. Flag football goes to Sedalia for games on Saturday. I think you guys start picking up some double headers now. And I guess it's kind of weird to say in football, but I think you got double headers in football for a couple of the flag guys coming up over the next couple weeks. And then 5th and 6th grade, they both go to Crest Ridge. 3rd and 4th will take on Windsor. 5th and 6th will play Skyline. And then there's a big cross-country meet down at Butler. Also, so a lot of things going on over at Butler, really.
Yeah.
But then big things going on at Warsaw on Saturday. That's the Warsaw Marching Festival. And I told them that I'd make sure that we mention that. I think they've got 11 schools. I think something like 700 kids coming to town, and I think that starts around 1:30. I think they even block off part of Main Street because I think there's a parade portion of the contest, and then I believe they go out to the school. They're on the field, they're in the gym, and just you want to hear some good stuff, go out there, check out the Warsaw Marching Festival this weekend. I believe they're starting it downtown at 1:30, and then they'll be out at the school after that. So anyway, Coach, anything else you got for us this week? What am I missing?
Saturday morning to round out the season, middle school volleyball tournament. I think we covered everything else. Like I said, it's just that time of year, but I know they'll be wrapping up their season, and then I know it says everybody kind of clears out of the school grounds there. Then about that time, everybody for the band festival will be coming out for the high school side of things. So busy day on campus for sure.
Busy day at campus, busy week. And we look forward to another one next week, probably. I'm sure we'll be just as busy. So it's the Wildcats on the road again this week. They'll be at Butler to take on the Bears in another big game in the OHC. That kickoff set for 7 p.m. and we look forward to seeing you there. As a reminder, if you can't make it over to Bates County, you can also watch all Wildcats football games live on BCE TV. That's where Matt Dove and Drew Burdick always look forward to bringing the games to you, and I will be back this week too. So I look forward to that one. And so, thanks for clicking in today. For head coach Ryan Boyer, I'm Adam Howe, and I'm going to the house.
This has been a BCE TV production. Thank you for watching.